Chapter 41. 41. Week before the preliminary exam. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. After another round of lovemaking, Charlton, who saw that it was almost dawn, walked Serena back to her bedroom. They kissed each other one more time before they parted. At 10:30 in the morning, Serena heard someone knocking on her door. "Milady, the Duke and the Duchess are waiting for you to join them for brunch." Serena groggily rose from the bed. She hadn't slept much yet but decided to join them anyway. She can sleep later when she goes back to school. She moved to have a quick shower and dress herself. After finishing all that in 20 minutes, she went out of the room to see the servant waiting for her. "Sorry to keep you waiting, let's go," she said, still feeling a bit lethargic. In the dining hall, she saw her family, along with Charlton, who did not look like he had an all-nighter and in fact looks even better than usual. They were having an amiable conversation when they saw her come in. "Oh, Serena, you're a little late. Charlton here is just telling me about his and Leonard's escapades during their younger days. Come sit and have your meal," Celine said. Serena nodded her head, not speaking. She discovered that her voice was a little hoarse from all her screaming last night. Thankfully, the guest rooms were a little far from their family's bedrooms. If not, it would be a miracle to have no one hear her. Serena sat beside her mother facing Charlton. They smiled at each other once before Charlton continued with his stories, regaling her mother endlessly. After brunch, Simon instructed Finn to have their carriages prepared. He and his wife will accompany the children back to school first before going back to their dukedom. They need to leave a little early so that they can arrive at their estate before night falls. Just like the other day, Serena rode with her parents and Charlton rode with Leonard. When they arrived at school, they first sent Serena back to her room before they proceeded to talk to the principal. Serena was so tired that she fell right back to sleep once her head touched her pillow. On the second week of October, the heavy pressure in the atmosphere at school became palpable because of the looming preliminary exams. Students were all busy cramming every knowledge that they can. The library was always full, and even on the vast open school grounds, one can see students in groups having their books out. Given this, Serena and Charlton had not a lot of time to see each other. On Monday, they spent some time together at the private music room, not doing much but to study on their own. Serena did not want to disturb him from reading. Besides, she rather much enjoyed his serious face with glasses reading a book. On Tuesday, students were in a frenzy. Like a state of panic Serena understood all too well. This time, she and Charlton did not meet, agreeing to study with their peers for the rest of the week as they don't have the same subjects. On Wednesday, Serena too felt the pressure get into her system. After dismissal, she and her friends trudged towards the library to study for the coming exams. Although she did say that she didn't really want to excel too much, she was not too audacious to assume that she was smarter than everyone here. Although she may have the advantage of having more knowledge from her previous life, she knew that she's a little rusty. Who won't be? The last she used them, if she were correct, was, 4 decades ago. Besides, geography and history here were a little new to her. She was surprised to learn that Charlton's father, Duke Charles Daniel, was actually a war hero. Her granddaughter, Rianne, did not include that in the details of her novel. Serena discovered that a lot of things here were missing from Rianne's novel. Like her current friends. Even their names were not really mentioned, she didn't even know they existed. Thus, she could only assume that it is safe to say that aside from facts in the novel, she is moving in a world that breathes a life of its own. "The pressure is just killing me," Millie groaned as she exhaled loudly. "I don't think I can absorb even one more word of what this Adam Smith is saying. What of laissez-faire and what not? Please just shoot me now," she cried. Serena and her friends were currently in her room studying. It was Thursday, and because of the preliminary exam next week, they will not have classes tomorrow. Don't take everything in at once. We still have a few days before the exam. I suggest you read through it first and then try to understand. You can memorize them easier that way later. Serena advised. I don't know how you do it, Serena, juggling everything the same time and being able to answer everything when asked. I won't be surprised if you were to top the exams. Giselle sobbed as she covered her face with her palms. I can't do this anymore, I feel like my brain is about to explode. No can do. You must try to understand the concepts, here, and here. You can't give up now, if you do, Uncle and Auntie will be disappointed. Besides, Serena is right, don't take everything in at once. We still have time, it's just Thursday. Vea said as she tried to calm her cousin. It's not that I understood them easily. I've been learning these subjects for a long time now. Also, I've been spending a lot of time studying these things at night. Serena consoled, while thinking, well, it's true that I've been learning some of these subjects for a long time, and have spent sleepless nights like from high school to college to postgraduate. So it's not like I'm lying. Then she continued with, so, if you don't understand anything, just ask me and I'll try to explain everything the best that I can. It will also help me review, so don't hesitate. The girls looked at her gratefully as they continued reading their materials, asking her questions from time to time. TBC. Chapter 42. 42, Preliminary Exam. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Serena spent the weekend reviewing with her friends, the week of the preliminary exams finally arrived. At 8:30 in the morning, they met at the lobby of their dormitory. I'm so nervous, I don't think that I'm ready for this just yet, Giselle said. Ugh, Giselle, stop that, your anxiety is contagious. I think I might start palpitating. Millie replied. Vea and Serena couldn't help but chuckle as they looked at their two friends and then at each other. Come on guys, I for one, just can't wait to get this over with. Let's go. Vea said decisively. The girls nodded, and then like soldiers off to war, they marched towards the school. Upon reaching the main building, they saw students hovering at the entrance trying to find their names at the bulletin board containing their room assignment for the exams. Not wanting to squeeze themselves like sardines with the other students, they waited until they were the last to look for their names. While Serena was trying to find her name, she felt a tap on her shoulder. Hey! Serena was pleasantly surprised to hear that voice, which she immediately recognized. She didn't know how much she missed him until she turned to look at him. It has just been a few days of not seeing each other, but it felt like years. Hey to you too. Why are you still here? Serena smiled, seeing that Charlton was alone. I just wanted to see you and wish you good luck. I found your name earlier and saw that you were assigned in room 3. I did try to check if you were there already but didn't see you, so here I am. Charlton explained. Serena's friends turned to look at them after finding their names and knew that the two needed some alone time. Anyway, the exam will start in 5 minutes, so they quickly said their goodbyes and wished each other luck. You have no idea how much I missed you these days. Charlton began as he hugged her and inhaled the floral scent of her hair. I missed you too. Just 4 days to go and we're done with the exams. Serena replied as she hugged him back. After a few seconds they reluctantly let go of each other, aware that they were out in the open. I know you don't need it, but good luck. Charlton said as he smiled at her. Serena grinned back saying, thank you, and I wish you luck too. I know you'll need it. Then she laughed. Charlton laughed along as he playfully smacked her lips with his own. Just so you know, I am in the top 5 of my batch. I'm not that bad. Serena nodded. She knew that he was also smart and capable. He was not second male lead in the novel for nothing. All right. Then, I'll see you on Friday. This will be a very long week. But, yes, see you on Friday. When Serena entered the room, there was only one vacant seat left, so it did not take her long to find hers. As the first years have 7 core subjects, the exams were spread in such a way that on each day, 2 subjects were covered. For the first day, the subjects were history and geography. Supposedly, those 2 were the easiest because it's simply memorization. But to Serena, they were the most difficult since, in comparison to the world she came from, the realities in this world were a little different. Anyway, Serena was quite the responsible student before, though her results were only above average, she did manage to enter the best university in their country. Thus, she believes that it will truly be a shame if she were to have worse results than these real young girls who did not even have formal schooling until now. The examiner assigned to their room was Dennis Lint, who was also their teacher in biology. He was a very strict man who always looked at his students with suspicious eyes. The question paper for each subject was the same to all the first-year students regardless of their gender. The purpose is to correctly assess their knowledge and ability, as in some rare cases, female students even excel more. Though the only female precedent to do so was Grace Astoria, who managed to enter the top 10 of their batch. It may not sound much, but considering the circumstance, that was an achievement no one can scoff at. Mr. Lint, who just entered the room, walked to the front and stood on top of the platform. He brought out the questionnaire from his bag along with another set which, Serena assumed, was the answer sheet. Then he read out the instructions. The first exam for the day is geography. In my hands are the questionnaire and the answer sheet where you need to place your answers on. Before we begin, let me remind you that any form of cheating will cause immediate disciplinary action or even worse, expulsion. Thus, I remind everyone to mind your own papers. You are given 3 hours to complete taking this exam. If you finish early, you may submit your work and leave the classroom quietly. At 1 p.m., you are asked to return to this classroom to take your exam in history, for which you will also be given 3 hours. Are there any questions? Sir, can we use the restroom in the middle of the exam? A student asked. Yes, however, your pockets will be checked before and after coming back to the room. Anything else? No one spoke. Since there were no more questions, the test papers were distributed among students. Serena came face to face with the questionnaire. She read through all the questions first before she started answering. Thankfully, the exam did not have a lot of tricky questions. During her 20s in her previous life, she had a lot of half-baked job experience before she got married and settled on becoming the lazy semi-housewife, reading novels and just collecting rent for her parents' real estate business. One can say that she's a jack of all trades, but master of none. She was once an elementary and high school teacher for 3 months, and yes, she was forced to resign during the school year because she was always late. Right after, she was hired as a college professor. Although she quite liked that job, she thought that there was another world out there aside from the academe. So, after 4 years, she moved on to another job working for the government involving trade negotiations for more than a year. Then she got tired of all the bureaucracy and the red tape where promotion became a subject for only those in power. She also had other jobs, but those were not even worth mentioning as she quit them very early, not even lasting a month. Anyway, going back, she knew that some of the teachers, like she once was, include tricky questions in the exam just so that not all students will get a perfect score because they think that the exam was too easy, which apparently was not when the results came out. So, she personally thought that this exam was quite easy. The first part, which had multiple choice and true or false questions, were quite straightforward. The second part was enumeration, where she projected, she got 90% correct, and the last part was essay. When she finished, she felt that although she did not get everything correct, she will at least get a final score of more than 90%. Serena rechecked her answers as she felt that it was too early to submit them. Mr. Lint wrote that they have 1.5 hours left on the board. She saw that a student stood up from his seat to submit his work. Feeling that she can't add anything on her paper anymore, she followed. The exams continued that way for the next 3 days. When Thursday came, only the subject economics was left. Serena can finally taste sweet freedom as she finished writing her essay. Of all the exams, she spent the most in this one. Perhaps because she had more idea on what to write about said subject because it was her major in college up to postgraduate school. Nevertheless, she was just glad that it was all over. TBC. Chapter 43. 43, well. Intended advice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Finally. Freedom, Giselle exaggeratedly expressed as she spread her arms wide open. Oh yes. Sweet, sweet, freedom. Right now, I just wish to go out of school and go enjoy myself looking around town. Millie seconded. Serena can't help but relish the same sentiments as her friends. Previously, when she had exams, she was always pressured because she must meet a certain grade so that she won't get kicked out of school. She understood that the situation was different here, but old habits die hard. Thankfully, she knew that she did well in all the subjects. Ugh. I'm not sure if I answered the essay part correctly. I'm afraid I might flunk this one. Via said worriedly. Stop that, Via, I don't want to talk about the exams anymore. It's over, and no matter how much we discuss it, the results won't change. Giselle said exasperated. Giselle's right, Via, how about this, let's all go out to celebrate. My treat. Serena suggested. As a breather after the exams, students were allowed to go out of school today. In addition, classes will resume on Monday. Yeses. I love you so much, Serena. You're the best. Millie exclaimed as she hugged her. Man, I just want to slump down now. These 2 weeks were hell. Ugh, if that were not enough, the wait for the results is even more nerve-wracking. Kylo said as he slung his arms on Joshua's shoulder. Although he may not look like it, he takes his schooling seriously. Hey, get off me. You're too heavy. Joshua complained as he pushed Kylo's arm away. I agree with you there, it's really been hell. But look at the bright side, it's over now, and we have the long weekend ahead. Charlton replied as he smiled wistfully, thinking that he can finally spend the next few days with his girlfriend. Hey, do you guys want to join us in heading out? Joshua offered. Kylo looked at his watch and saw that it was only 4 in the afternoon. Unlike the freshmen, sophomores have 8 subjects. Where are you going? Well, we're meeting up with some girls from Class 2 at Fitzgerald's, and loath as I am for inviting you two who would most probably garner all the attention, we're lacking 2 guys to even out the number. Ha. Just what I need after all these, sure, we're in. Kylo readily agreed. At the same time, Charlton declined saying, no, I don't think I can join you guys. Sorry. Kylo quickly faced Charlton, no, you don't get to say no. Remember, you still owe me. You know that I'm seeing someone, I don't think that it's proper for me to meet with other girls. Ha. Since when did you become attached to one girl? I hate to say this, but you've been so boring since we left Allegheny, not to mention this 2 months. That girl must be so good in bed that you've been pussy-whipped. Joshua ridiculed. Charlton clenched his jaw. Joshua saying that was uncalled for, but he had to tell himself that the chap doesn't know what he's talking about. Kylo saw the change in Charlton's mood. Hey, don't say that, Joshua, Charlton is just in the honeymoon phase. Anyway, do tell me about the girls we're meeting. Are they pretty? Mia's group, well, you might have seen some of them, as I think 2 are from the swimming club. She's also bringing along her cousin from Balham who's a freshie. There will be 6 of them, I was told. So, are you in? Who's going with us? And yes, sure, count us in. Kylo replied. Me, Vincent, Miles and Jeff. You sure? How about you, Charlton? Joshua looked at Charlton, who was not speaking. Yes, Charlton is joining us. Kylo said as he slung his arm on Charlton's shoulder. All right, Let's meet at the dorm's lobby by 5. Kylo confirmed with a nod. You don't have to do that, you know that I'm not interested and I really don't want to go. This might cause some unnecessary misunderstanding between Serena and I. Charlton said as he shrugged Kylo's arm. They were the only 2 people left in the classroom, so they talked freely. Don't be like that. I think you need to get your facts straight. I know that I did tell you to have a taste, but I did not tell you to swallow. You know that she's still engaged to Jeffrey, right? You can go have some fun with her, sure, whatever, I have nothing against that. But you're taking this way too seriously. In the end, you will be the one getting the short end of the stick. And are you truly willing to ruin your years of brotherhood with your blood cousin, mind you, just for some girl? I say you better stop now before it's too late. Kylo, she is not just some girl, and if it comes to that point, I'm willing to take all the repercussions our relationship entails. Kylo looked at Charlton incredulously shaking his head. I tell you that what you feel now, well, don't be too sure, as you might regret it. It's been just what? Less than 2 months. And now you want to go Romeo and Juliet. Come on, I thought you knew better than that. Charlton had nothing to say in rebuttal because he knew that Kylo did have a point. There's no point in explaining because he himself doesn't understand why he is being this way. Cat got your tongue. Because we both know that I have a point. Anyway, we're going and you can't say no. This will be good for you. You have to see that there are more fishes in the ocean. I bet you're just feeling the way you do because of the excitement brought by your forbidden relationship. No matter what you think or say, I'm still not going. If you dare not to, then don't blame me for what I will do. Resorting to blackmail now. I'm just concerned about you. You know that. For more than anyone else, I see you as my brother. Charlton wanted to tell Kylo that there's no use convincing him to let go of Serena now. That his advice will just enter one ear and exit the other. As he already knew in his heart that he loved her. Loves her so much that he would rather suffer 1,000 deaths than part from her. But he couldn't. He couldn't just throw Kylo's well-intended advice to his face. So, he nodded. I'll just go to fill in the numbers. Charlton said, hoping that Serena and Leonard do not get to see him. Ha! That's boy. TBC. Chapter 44. 44, Group Date. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fitzgerald's was a local bistro popular to the students of Windsor's School for Nobles. It was frequented by students to unwind as they serve wines, beers, and other alcoholic beverages. When Charlton and company arrived, the girls were not yet present. Vincent, who made the reservation, talked to the receptionist, who led them to a long table set up for 12 on the right side, which was clearly visible from the entrance. The boys sat in a straight line as it was a group date. Charlton, wanting to be inconspicuous, sat at the far end. Okay, so like we talked about earlier, Mia's friend, Janine, is my date. I don't care where the other girls sit, but you guys know the drill. Vincent instructed. He was the one to set this meet up, wanting the chance to get the girl he likes date him. Everyone nodded as they waited. Sorry, for running a little late. I hope you guys did not wait long. Mia, the leader of the group, said with a sugary voice, so sweet that ants may just suddenly appear to bite her. When she, along with the other girls, entered the bistro at 5:45, they were pleasantly surprised to see Kylo and Charlton amongst the boys. All the girls eyed the two, wanting the chance to sit with them. No, not at all. Vincent replied as he stood up along with the boys. Please let me introduce my friends. He introduced the boys by name as he pointed at them. He was sitting in the middle, on his right were Miles and Jeff, while on his left were Joshua, Kylo and Charlton. It's a pleasure to meet all of you here. Now here with me are Janine, Elizabeth, Rochelle, and Mildred, whom you may have already known as we are all sophomores. Now, I want to introduce my cousin, Isabel Price, a freshman who, mind you all, is a princess from Balam. she proudly said as she looped her arm with her shy cousin who was just looking at the ground. "Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here with us, Your Highness." Joshua, who found the freshie fetching, teased. Mia, not liking Joshua, who was renowned as a rake for her innocent cousin, chose to ignore him. Being the leader, she was given the prerogative to choose to be seated first. Not being shy, she directly sat in front of Kylo and let her cousin sit in front of Charlton. Although the two were also rakes, they at least have the right to be. Besides, if she can snag Kylo, who is a prince, through this, then why not? All is fair in love and war. Now for her cousin, well, she did hear some stories about Charlton, but that was all in the past. She never heard about him playing with a girl's heart since they were freshmen. When all the girls were seated, the waiters began serving the starters of the pre-ordered food and drinks. Meanwhile, the 12 began talking to their assigned partner, as if creating their own bubble. When Isabel finally had enough courage to look at the man her cousin paired her up with, she suddenly felt a fluttering in her stomach that made her feel queasy. She saw him smile at her tentatively, which made her forget to breathe, triggering lightheadedness that caused her to end up falling. Thankfully, her cousin was supporting her, or it would have been truly embarrassing. Kylo elbowed Charlton, as if telling him, "There you go, easy picking." But he just shook his head. He had no plans of engaging with some random girl. However, although he's just here to fill in the numbers, he still had to be polite. So, he waited for the girl to sit before sitting back himself. As he had no interest, aside from the tentative smile he gave, he did not start a conversation and just started drinking the wine set in front of him. Isabel, who had her head down and cheeks heated, waited for the man to reintroduce himself and start conversing with her. After a few minutes of nothing, she raised her head to look at him, only to find him staring at the glass of wine in his hand. Seeing that, she became a little anxious. Here she was, expecting a fairy tale, labeling him as her Prince Charming, but there he was just sitting, not paying her any attention. Isabel thought that perhaps the man, she heard his name was Charlton, was just as shy as she was. And so, she tried to go out of her shell. Mr. Charlton, am I correct? I am Isabel Price. I hope you don't mind me asking, but why are you here today?" she asked as she smiled at him shyly. Charlton, who was contented with not conversing, raised his eyes to look at the girl in front of him. He saw her flushed cheeks and her smile. Truthfully, he was used to girls giving him that look. So, he was not surprised to see that kind of expression on her. And though he had to admit that she was quite fetching, he was just not interested. "I hope that this doesn't offend you, Ms. Price, but I'm just here to fill the numbers. Sorry to trouble you." Isabel felt her face flush in embarrassment. But despite that, she didn't want to end everything there. When she first saw him, she thought that she and he were meant to be. That meeting him there today was fate. "It's all right. What do you do on your free time?" Charlton raised his brow. "Is this girl for real? Did she read the 'what do you ask' on your first date list?" Seeing her all embarrassed trying to talk to him, he took some pity on her. "I like playing some music," he answered, hoping that they can end the conversation there. "Oh, my friend also has that hobby. She was even requested by her music teacher to play on a wedding." Charlton, hearing this, immediately thought of Serena. Was this girl her friend? How come he never saw her around his girlfriend before? Really? What's her name? Her name is Emily. She began, but since she felt like Charlton was more interested about her friend than herself, she added, "But she's not here with me now as she is spending more time with her boyfriend." "Don't tell her I told you she has one, it's a secret." Charlton, intrigued by the information, could not help being curious. Serena did say that Jeffrey was seeing Emily. He wondered how that ship is sailing. So that's why you're here. Why is your friend keeping it as a secret? I thought girls like it when their man tries to proclaim to the world that they love them. Well, it's a secret. Isabel tried to evade. Come on, what's the secret about it? It's not like I know her. I just want another girl's opinion on that matter. Isabel, who thought herself in love with him, felt that she can tell him all her secrets, what more of just her friends. Besides, it was not like Charlton knew Emily. Well, it's a secret because the man is already engaged. I hope you do not think of me like her. I would never even think of stealing a man from his intended. Charlton, being content about what he learned, felt that the girl was quite amiable. So, he smiled at her and acted a little friendlier. She did supply him with some information. It was just too bad that it was this sight that Serena saw when she entered the bistro with her friends. TBC. Chapter 45. 45, Group Date 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Serena, did you hear about Fitzgerald's? I heard from my brother that it was a very popular hang-out place. Giselle said. What's in that place? Is it a cafe or something? Millie curiously asked. No, I heard it was a bistro. They serve some wines and alcoholic beverages there. I always wanted to try some, but my parents wouldn't let me. Giselle replied. Serena, hearing that it was a bistro, became enthralled. She only ever drank alcohol once in her previous life, only to find that she was allergic to alcoholic beverages. So, she always wanted to go out drinking while hanging out with friends. How about we try going there and have some ourselves? Serena suggested. I don't think that is a good idea. It's just the four of us, what if we get drunk? Via, being the voice of morality in their group, stated. Oh, come on Via, don't be such a killjoy. I think that we won't get drunk by simply having a sip. Besides, you can opt not to drink and just be our guardian. Giselle said, trying to convince her cousin. BL.net. Millie and Serena looked at her with their puppy eyes. All right. We don't really have classes tomorrow, so I guess it's okay. Via consented. When the group of four arrived at Fitzgerald's, it was already time for dinner, thus, the bistro was already filled with students and getting a table was not easy. The receptionist asked them to wait a while. Since they were already there, they agreed to wait. Serena and her friends were curious as it was their first time entering such place. The Fitzgerald's was a bistro that only allowed entry to those with the ages 18 above. Contrary to their expectations, the place was not the scandalous den they were imagining. As its main clients were students from a noble school, its aesthetic was low-key luxurious. Looking inside from the reception hall, they observed that the place was well lit despite its dark interiors. The atmosphere it exudes was intimate and cozy. Many people inside were in groups or with a date. Serena was looking around when she saw a head with silver hair. It was a unique color that she just knew that it was Kylo, and when she looked at the one beside him, she was pleasantly surprised to see Charlton. She was about to call his attention when she noticed that he was immersed in a conversation. And that was when she noticed that he and Kylo, along with 4 other men, were talking with 6 girls. Undeniably, it was a group date as they were all in pairs. And there was Charlton, as if coaxing the girl with a smile on his face. Suddenly, Serena didn't know what to do. Her hands started to tremble, and it was hard to breathe. The first thing that she felt was complete shock. She was blindsided and didn't see this one coming. She trusted Charlton unconditionally and couldn't really process what was happening. Then she felt intense raw emotion causing her heart to race and stomach to turn. She could not stop the tingling sensation on her nose as her eyes began to sting. She had to tell herself not to cry. Hey Serena, are you alright? The receptionist just told us that we can enter now as a table at the back is already available. Via asked worriedly. Serena didn't respond immediately. She had to breathe deeply to rein in her emotions while her friends looked at where she was looking at earlier. Aren't those Kylo and Charlton? What are they doing here? Giselle, who didn't understand the situation, asked. Serena, don't let it get to you. I have seen how Charlton treat you. Perhaps there's nothing going on there and everything is just coincidental. Millie tried to comfort her. Serena nodded and smiled. Perhaps there was really nothing going on there. Millie's right, she should not jump hastily to a conclusion. She must believe that she was an excellent judge of character. Serena and her friends followed the receptionist who led them to a table at the back. Charlton's group did not notice them as they were occupied with the girls. From where they were at, they can clearly see the group who seems to be enjoying themselves. Giselle, who just registered what was happening, said, "Hey, doesn't that girl look familiar?" Serena took a second glance at the girl. "I recognize her now, she's the girl in our class who's always following Emily like a lost puppy. Her name was Isabel Price if I recall correctly." Millie, who only recognized the girl because she was the self-proclaimed president of the Emily Haters Club along with Giselle, said, "Ugh, so birds of the same feather truly flock together. What a pretentious bitch, always acting shy and innocent, but there she is flirting shamelessly with someone else's boyfriend," Millie said. Forgetting the fact that Serena and Charlton's relationship was a secret. Charlton, who had no idea that his girlfriend was on the other side, watching him, continued to smile at what Isabel was saying. Although he wanted nothing more than to leave, he kept his ass planted on his sit as he muted her voice in his mind. "Mr. Charlton, I hope you don't mind, but I wish to tell you before I forget that I enjoyed myself, having to have spent time with you," Isabel said shyly, expecting Charlton to ask her for another date after this one. She felt that he must be interested as he smiled and nodded to whatever she said. He must be feeling the same way that she does. Charlton, who was not really paying attention, stared at her when she stopped talking. Thinking, what was she saying again? He observed that the girl had her head bowed as her face continued to redden. Being used to this kind of attention from the girls, he thought that she must be asking for another date. He didn't have any intention to see her again, so he wanted to turn her down politely. "Ah. I too enjoyed our time. However, I am quite the busy person and being here today was just a favor for a friend. So, I'm afraid that we won't be able to meet again," he comforted as he smiled at her. "Oh, then, when do you think will you be available?" Isabel, who only took his words from face value, insisted. "I'm sorry. Please don't take this the wrong way, but I already have someone in my heart, so." Charlton honestly confessed, he never did have the heart to lead a girl on. Isabel felt her cheeks flush in more embarrassment because of the rejection. However, she still tried to smile despite her tears threatening to fall. "He's so nice and handsome. It's very unlikely that he doesn't have a girlfriend yet. But, it's not like they're engaged or getting married, right? Besides, I'm not doing anything evil. I can be a friend first, and if the time comes that he grows tired of her, he will see me there beside him. It worked for Emily, it can work for me too," she told herself, convincing herself not to give up just yet. "Oh. I understand, but we can still be friends, right?" Charlton, who thought that the girl was nice and have some self-awareness, nodded his head with a friendlier smile. Besides, he didn't really want to burn the bridge just yet, she may still prove to be quite useful in telling him some details on how Jeffrey and Emily's relationship is progressing anyway. TBC. Chapter 46. 46, Group Date 3. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Serena's eyes were just about to pop out. She gave him the benefit of the doubt, but it was proving to be quite useless. Initially, she felt like crying, feeling some self-pity. But seeing everything that was unfolding before her very eyes, she wanted to storm over and pull the girl's hair and slap Charlton's cheek silly. How dare he do this to her? What a douche. "Serena, I tell you, stop seeing that scumbag. He doesn't even deserve you. Besides, you're a real queen. Be. You are even leveling down just for him, and this is what he does to you in return. And with that, Isabel. Does he even have taste? She doesn't even deserve to kiss the ground that you walk on." Giselle angrily spouted. Too incensed for her friend. Want to teach him a lesson? I can totally do so just for you, Via said, as she cracked her knuckles. Wait guys. I don't think that Charlton is that bad. We're just looking from afar and have not even heard what they were talking about. Millie said, not that she's a big fan of Charlton, which she is, but she can clearly see the love in his eyes when he looks at her friend. She really doesn't think that he had it in him to cheat on her. Hey, which side are you on? I can't believe that you're still defending him. Look at the many shades of red that the slut kept on turning. What else do you think is he telling her? Giselle confronted as she stood from her seat. Serena was tempted to just follow her friend's advice and storm to that side of the bistro so she can splash wine on Charlton's face. But she was not a real young girl or someone confrontational. 1. That will be truly embarrassing on her end. 2. Only a handful of people knew about their relationship. And 3. With some consciousness, she thought that she brought this upon herself. She knew Charlton's character from the start. Based on the novel, he was a playboy before falling in love with the female lead. What gave her the confidence to think that she could just barge in his life and assume that he will completely fall for her charms? The boy was just 19, and she an old lady fell for him, hook line and sinker. Just because he said some sweet nothings to her doesn't mean that they were all true. Besides, she's the one who started their relationship. Now she really felt like banging her head for her own stupidity. It has only been less than 2 months and she, a person who has seen more of life, have completely been wrapped around his fingers. And she had the gall to think that she had him whipped. Serena held Giselle's arm as she shook her head. She could not bring herself to stoop that low as to cause a scene in this place. A lot of people in the bistro turned their head to the back when someone stood up angrily, disturbing the peaceful ambience with the scraping sound the chair made. Charlton, who was interested in things other than whatever the girl in front of him was saying, turned to look. His eyes widened and he started to panic. Rather than the girl who stood up, he first saw his girlfriend's golden blonde hair. She had her face down and he couldn't clearly see her expression, but he knew that it was nothing good. Then he saw her pulling the girl down to sit back. Charlton in his state of panic didn't know what to do. He just wanted to go straight to where she was to explain. He felt the guilt weighing down on him for fear of any pain or hurt he might have made her feel. Kylo, feeling his friend acting strange, turned to look at the direction he was looking at. Oh shit! Was the first thing that came to his mind as he pulled Charlton, who was about to stand up, down. Let me go. Charlton angrily said. Stop that, you will cause a scene. Kylo whispered. Thinking that he hasn't convinced his friend enough, he continued saying, if you don't think about yourself, then think about her. You can talk to her later, I'll help you explain. Charlton, who gained back some sense, shrugged Kylo's arm as he sat back. He could not stop shifting on his seat, restless to just make this silly date end and go get his girlfriend alone to explain, even grovel if need be. Are you alright, Mr. Charlton? Isabel asked, concerned. Charlton didn't want to place the blame on the girl in front of him because he was the one at fault. However, he could not stop associating her with this turn of events, so he can only grunt. He's been staring here for quite a while now. Via reported to her friends, who were pretending that Charlton doesn't exist. Ignore him. Serena told her friends. In truth, a part of her wanted to confront him, but this was just not the place. Giselle and Millie looked at each other. Although Serena was showing a strong front, they both worry that she's just bottling everything inside. Having some sense, they all ate quickly, not in the mood to spend more time in the vicinity. Via, seeing Serena's mood, called for the bill, thinking of paying it herself. However, Serena still insisted, saying, I did say it was my treat, as she showed them a smile that didn't reach her eyes. When Charlton saw the girls stood up to leave, he was quick to follow. I have to go. Sorry. He said quickly, not even waiting for Isabel's reply. Kylo, who saw what was happening, did not try to stop him a second time. The boys and girls with them looked at Kylo, confused with how Charlton acted. Kylo just shrugged, saying he needed to go. He still has some important matters to attend to. Isabel nodded dejectedly, but perhaps it was truly important. Charlton was so kind, handsome, humble, and just perfect. He would not leave her there for no reason. Besides, she must show him what an understanding girl she was. Serena, wait. Please let me explain. Charlton said as he chased after her. Serena walked in a fast pace with her friends. Stop chasing her, she doesn't want to talk to you. Give her some space. Giselle confronted. Charlton wanted to tell her to mind her own business but chose to ignore her. Having longer legs than Serena, he grabbed her arm. Please, Serena. Charlton pleaded, but before he could say anything further, he heard the resounding ringing on his ears as he staggered. Serena slapped him so hard that she felt her right palm sting. The bystanders were all surprised of what she did that they can only stop and gape. Thankfully, it was already getting late and no one on the street recognized them. Her friends were so shocked. Serena was usually very kind and composed. She was quite the reasonable person, so they didn't know she had it in her to get physical. Serena too was surprised with what she did. She lost control and acted on reflex. It felt good, but at the same time, she felt a little guilty for slapping that face which she liked so much. Charlton held his cheek, still a little dizzy. He never knew his girlfriend can hit so hard. I deserve that. But please, I'm begging you. Listen to me. Serena, after blowing off some steam, was more sensible this time. I need to think. Please unhand me. Charlton wanted to grovel in the middle of the street, just to beg her not to leave him. He has never felt anything like this his whole life. Like he was ready to jump off a cliff if she told him to, just so that she will forgive him. Seeing Charlton not removing his grip on her arm, Serena angrily shrugged him off. Then she turned to her friends to say, "Let's go." Charlton was shell-shocked. He wanted to stop her, but his feet were rooted on the spot. He was lost and didn't know what to do. All he knew was that he hurt Serena and that she must hate him now. Giselle and Via quickly followed Serena, while Millie, taking some pity on Charlton, gave him a friendly advice. Just give her some time to think. Serena is a sensible person. I know that what you have for her is true. Once she realizes that you honestly didn't mean to hurt her, then she will forgive you. I know she loves you and was just very much hurt by what you did. I hope you two can still reconcile. Millie said as she smiled at him. Don't worry, I support you. Charlton nodded at her. Thank you. He said, while feeling like he was nothing but an utter piece of shite. TBC. Chapter 47. 47, Guilty as Charged. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Are you sure you're okay? Via asked one more time as they sent Serena back to her room. Yes, don't worry. Thank you. Serena replied as she smiled at her friends. All right, then good night. Serena, we're just here if you need us. We'll go ahead, rest well. Giselle said worriedly while Millie seconded. Serena nodded at the girls and said, I'll see you next week. When Serena entered her bedroom, she sprawled herself on her bed. She realized being with the girls earlier at least distracted her mind. Now that she's alone, she can't stop herself from reflecting about her relationship with Charlton. There was anger and the feeling of betrayal, yes, but she also tried to analyze the situation objectively. First, from the very start, it was her who pursued him in an aggressive manner. Perhaps he thought of her easy and well, as any other playboy, he just took what she offered. Did she really expect him to respect a teenage hormonal girl in this some kind of a 19th century era who was so wanton that she opened her legs for him when he didn't even ask? Second, it's not like her intention from the very start was pure and innocent. She even thought that he was just good as her first boyfriend and that she'll eventually move on to her next target. Lastly, she is engaged to his cousin. What made her think that he will risk everything just to have her? He didn't even do that for the female lead. So, given these facts, should she still be surprised with what Charlton did? She should have known and understood these things from the very start. She should just stop whatever they have and put everything between them behind. She should just let it go. Tit for tat. But despite telling herself these things, why does it hurt so much? Her tears kept falling as she clutched her chest with her right hand, as if the action can lessen her heartache. She was so stupid. How can she let herself fall in love with a teenage boy who was never meant to be hers? She really deserved all these pain because of her own stupidity. What was she even thinking? Telling herself to bring her fantasies to life and whatnot. She has long understood that this, wherever she is not some fantasy drama, but now her reality. But despite telling herself all these things, she couldn't understand why she still felt this way. That she wanted to hear his side of the story. That she would want nothing but for him to beg for her forgiveness, and for him to tell her that he loves her. It has only been less than 2 months, but she feels so strongly for him. No, she shouldn't feel this way. She must be strong and forget about him. Serena wanted to bang her head on the wall. What was wrong with her? Why was she so torn for whatever this stupid thing is? Should she just listen to Charlton? But what about her pride? The whole weekend, Serena holed herself in her room in this state of confusion. Perhaps her brain was really turned to goo by this love affair she has with Charlton. She had to admit though, his hotness really can melt even the whole of Antarctica. Or maybe because their relationship was still new and still is in its honeymoon phase. Or perhaps, this transmigration thing really made her head lose some screws. But at the end of the day, she must be true to herself. She can't even entertain the thought of him moving on to another girl and forgetting about her. She wants him, always have wanted him. From the moment she saw him, she already labeled him as hers. After the long hours and some days of thinking, she was able to think things through. If she really were to let him go, she will also be the one to suffer. She had to admit to herself that she does love him, and besides, she should truly let him explain. So fine, she is taking him back as long as he grovels, but she still had to make him suffer to teach him a lesson. Hey, come on. Stop this stalking, already. You've been waiting here since the other day. I can't believe you're being this way. Is she even worth it? Kylo said as he looked at his friend worriedly. Last Thursday, Kylo had to excuse himself early as he was worried for his friend and felt somewhat guilty. Luckily, on his way back, he saw him standing at the middle of the street. At that time, Charlton looked like a wet puppy abandoned by its master. Charlton ignored him. What choice does he have? He can't stop thinking about her. When he went back to his dorm last Thursday, he was not able to get a wink of sleep. On Friday, just when the main building was opened at 7 a.m., he went to the private music room directly. Hoping against hope that she would still come. He waited until 7 p.m., skipping lunch and dinner, just so that he will not accidentally miss her if she were to come. Well, he did not even see her shadow. Come Saturday, he already lost hope that she will still see him of her own accord, so he stood at the side of the ladies' dormitory, waiting to catch a glimpse of her, and start begging if need be. But she didn't go out the whole day. He did see her friends and tried to approach them, making him leave his hiding place, but they chose to ignore him. Only Millie gave him an awkward smile. He wanted to ask her about Serena, but her 2 friends pulled her along. Walking away from him so quickly that he felt like he was some bloke with leprosy. So here he is again on a Sunday. He's been here before sunrise, and now, the sun is high in the sky indicating that it is already noon. Seriously, I think that this is for the best. Your relationship will be going nowhere anyway. Kylo said as he harumphed. Charlton, who lacks sleep and haven't had any normal meal since Friday, felt his adrenaline rush through his veins. Normally, he has a tight grip on his emotions, especially that of anger. But he was already at the limit of his patience. "Shut up." "Excuse me." Kylo was surprised. Charlton has always been polite. In all the years that they have been friends, he rarely heard him curse. "I said shut up. Just, get out of my sight. I don't want to hear your bullshit." "Hey, we've been friends for so long, and you're saying that to me just because of some girl." "Kylo, I don't know how you see things. I know that you have always enjoyed playing with women, but that girl you're pertaining to is the woman I love. So, if you have nothing nice to say, and have no intention of helping me, then at least don't make it worse. Leave me be," Charlton said as he tried to calm down. Kylo felt like his brows were about to shoot out of his forehead. Charlton just said those four-letter words without even a hint of embarrassment. "Are you serious? Don't you know what that means?" "Charlton, I knew you had it bad, but I didn't know that you're irredeemable." "What about Jeffrey? Don't you know that what you're doing is committing a lèse-majesté? He is having an affair himself. And so, he is a man." "Kylo," Charlton began as he took a deep breath, "I don't need you to give me any advice on what I should or should not be doing. With regards to Jeffrey, I honestly don't know yet. Perhaps, I'll just cross the bridge when I get there. But what I do know right now is that I love her. I cannot even for a second entertain the thought of losing her. Do you understand me? Man. I don't know what to say." Kylo replied as he sighed and shook his head. "I admit, I am also at fault. I did do Jeffrey wrong in this matter. I egged you on, even encouraged you. I didn't know that it will lead to this. If I had known, I never would have. No. If I didn't want to, no one could have convinced me otherwise. However, if you truly do feel guilty, then I only ask you one thing." "What?" "Don't threaten me by using my relationship with her ever again." Kylo can only scratch his head and nod. Well, he was guilty as charged. TBC. Chapter 48. 48, Preliminary Exam Results. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Serena, after thinking things through, was looking fresh on that early Monday morning. One could never tell that she has been wallowing in self-pity that weekend, for she looked like nothing was weighing down on her. She even looked like she was glowing. Well, she indeed was feeling good and brand new. Last night, her friends went to visit her only to inform her that Charlton was lurking around their dormitory like a love-sick puppy since Saturday. They also said that it seems like he lost some weight. She was not a sadistic person, but she still felt some satisfaction from that knowledge. After deciding that she will forgive her lover, she thought of how to make him suffer, well, not too much, but it should still be a lesson he will never forget. Lest he thinks that he can just do anything, and she will just forgive him. So even when she knew that Charlton was still outside the dorm, she did not go out. Charlton, who was looking worse for wear, was up early in the morning. He took a shower and shaved his growing stubble, as he did notice that Serena didn't appreciate it. At 7 in the morning, he was already outside the ladies' dormitory, hiding at the spot beside the building behind a century-old tree that the girls pass by on their way to the main building. The spot was perfect, as he can still see people passing without him being seen. It was 8:45 when he saw Serena with her friends. She was even more beautiful than he remembers, and the rays of the morning sun made her glow. She was all smiles, and Charlton didn't know why, but he felt even worse. The thought of her being hurt with what he did was more comforting than seeing her smiling like nothing was wrong, because it made him feel like, well, like he didn't matter. It was like she already put everything between them behind her, and he was not even worth mentioning anymore. Serena and her friends were actually trying hard not to laugh. They already saw Charlton behind the tree 30 minutes ago when they met in the lobby. They saw where he came out last time and already knew where he has been hiding since Saturday. So, this morning, they tried to see if he was there through the glass window. And there he was, hiding and looking at the passing people like an idiot. I think I left something in my room. Please go ahead. You'll be late if you still wait for me. Serena, thinking that Charlton was too pitiful, told her friends. The girls nodded in understanding as they left. Serena, who was still pretending, turned to go back to the dorm. Of course, Charlton won't let go of this God-given chance, so he went out of hiding to call her. Serena. Serena turned to look at him, trying hard not to smile and just forgive him then and there. She observed that he did look like he lost some weight, while under his eyes were dark eye bags that made him look like someone who haven't been sleeping for days. Well, good for him. Lord Daniel. What are you doing here? She said, trying to sound indifferent. Charlton was tongue-tied. It looked like she didn't want to hear anything he has to say. But he wants to say them anyway. He had to explain. Please, listen to me. It was never my purpose to go there, But his brain was not working with his mouth. He didn't know what excuse he can make. He had been thinking of this moment for the last 3 days, something like Serena slapping him again and all the drama. But in front of him was his calm girlfriend, or should he say ex-girlfriend, like she doesn't even have the time of the day to listen to his lousy excuses. And then. I know I have no excuse for what I did. Whatever I say, in the end I still chose to go. But please Serena, just this once, please give me another chance. I would never let something like that happen again. Is that all you have to say? I'm about to be late for my classes so. Charlton quickly stopped, feeling like he was just punched in the gut that he had to wince. Serena finally took pity on him. He did look sincere and it looks like he truly was suffering. Let's talk about it later. Charlton, who finally felt like the sun was again shining, quickly nodded his head while eagerly saying, yes, yes. You're right. When can we have this talk? Seeing him all eager, Serena could not help the tilting of her lips, so she quickly turned around, so as not to let him see it. Why? Do you think that you have suffered enough? She asked. No, no. I don't think so. You may do with me as you see fit. Charlton quickly replied, he was afraid that she might change her mind. HMPFT, I'll see if I have time later. If not, you wait tomorrow. By the way, stop hiding behind that tree, you look like a stalker with some sinister plans. Serena said as she walked to the main building. Though she really wanted to spend more time with him to have their much-needed heart-to-heart talk, she didn't want to be late. When Serena said those words, Charlton felt that everything in the world was beautiful again. She hadn't forgiven him just yet, but he felt like her forgiveness was not out of reach. So, with renewed hope and vigor, he followed behind her on their way to their respective classes. When Serena arrived in class, everyone was looking at her like she was some alien who came in from planet Mars. What's going on? Serena asked her friends. I'm not so sure, but I guess it has something to do with the results of the preliminary exam. That was all they were talking about since we arrived. Millie answered. I heard that the results were posted at the assembly hall this morning. I wanted to go and see, but we didn't have time to go out and look at it anymore. Perhaps, we should look at it later during lunch. Vea continued. Serena felt her heart throb. Did she excel too much that she topped the exam? No, really, she did consider that she might outperform all the students here. So, is this the part where she gets to be the smartest student around, finding her golden thumb? Well, it's too early to say. Apparently, Serena was not too far off the mark. Their first subject for the day was reading. Good morning everyone. Here with me are your exam papers. The first 3 people to be called are the top performer for this class. The rest of the papers are randomly arranged. First let me call on Ms. Vea Gonzalez, who got the score of 88. There was an applause as Via went to get her paper from their teacher. Second, let me call on Ms. Emily Evans, who got a score of 91. Again, people clapped, but not too enthusiastically. Like they were just going through the motions. And lastly, may I call on the most outstanding student for this subject, who did not only get the highest score from this class, but from the whole batch. She perfected this exam. Please, Ms. Serena Maxwell, come to the front. Serena blushed as she went to the front to get her paper while the students of their class applauded her thunderously. Thank you, sir, this was only possible because of your guidance, she said humbly as she smiled at their teacher and to everyone in class. When she got back to her seat, Millie said, "Wow, Serena. You're too awesome. A perfect score. Really. Guys, look at Emily, she's about to cry. I didn't even see her clap for Serena earlier." Giselle whispered. Ha! She sure fell off her high horse. I bet everyone in our class were so satisfied with you getting a higher score than her. Millie replied as she laughed. Soon, the two stopped laughing as they received their paper with the scores of 63 and 64 respectively. Oh well, it's still higher than what they expected. After distributing all the exam papers, their teacher started discussing the answers. Their second subject was mathematics. I should say that I'm not surprised that Miss Serena here got the highest score from the whole batch. A perfect score in mathematics. Please everyone, give her a round of applause. Mr. Sullivan said proudly. Serena was his favorite student since the last time she solved that problem and told him that it was his brilliant teaching that helped her get the correct answer. Everyone started clapping. After the class settled, their teacher started discussing the answers. TBC. Chapter 49. 49, second place. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When their teacher left for lunch break, everyone started surrounding and congratulating Serena except for Emily, who was still looking at her paper, perhaps thinking how she got some of the answers wrong, and Isabel, who seems to be comforting her. Serena. You're so awesome. I wish I can be half as good as you. You're my idol. Lydia, one of their classmates said. No, I believe if given the same opportunity as me, you all would have performed just as well. It's just that I took some of this classes when I was younger, so I have an advantage. Serena modestly replied. Well, she was saying the truth. Wow, you're so humble too. Not only are you the most beautiful person here, you're also the smartest, the kindest, and even more, you're also a future queen. Unlike some people here who's so full of themselves. Cornelia loudly said while taking a side glance at Emily, then she made her eyes roll. The girls in their class all laughed. It was as if Serena's victory were their very own victory. Serena can only ignore their veiled insult. Well, it's not like they're directly bullying the female lead, and it's not her fault that she was not well liked. Who asked her to be such an insufferable no-all? It's not like she's a Hermione Granger. After that short episode, Serena and her friends went to the assembly hall/auditorium to see the bulletin board containing the names of the top 10 ranking students of the preliminary exam. They all saw Serena's name immediately. She managed to land herself on third place with the average score of 96%. What made her outstanding was that if she had managed to get a higher score in biology, she could have been on first place. 100 in math, 100 in economics, 98 in philosophy, 100 in reading, 95 in geography, 98 in history. If not for biology with the score of 81, then you would have been number one. The top scorer only got an overall score of 97. Wow! I knew that you were smart, Serena, but I never expected that you were a genius. Giselle exclaimed. Hey, don't you see what I see? History in the making. Even teacher Grace only managed to enter the top 10 during her senior year. Millie remarked. Hey, look, Emily also made it in the top 10, she actually ranked 9th place with an average score of 90. Via commented. What, ninth place? Isn't that too far from third place? Ha! What a slap on her face. Looking down on us, feeling like she's the best student in our class. Ha 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 ha. Giselle, who didn't care if anyone heard her, laughed out loud. Thankfully, no one was around as they were all at the cafeteria having lunch. The other students already saw the bulletin board earlier. Serena then looked at the result of the second-year students. As expected, Jeffrey got first place with an average score of 100. Again, he wasn't male lead for nothing. Besides, the score could even be biased. He is the Crown Prince. But what was surprising was Charlton's result. In the novel, he's just usually at the top 5, not scoring higher than Leonard, who was usually in second place. But clearly in front of her was Charlton's name with an average score of 99. Geometry 100, Chemistry 100, Political Science 96, Accounting 100, World History 100, Macroeconomics 100, Writing 100, Ethics 96. Did he work hard to impress her? She thought as she smiled, feeling happy for him. Wow, Serena, you're the same as your brother on third place. Haha. He got an average score of 98. Not bad. And look at Loverboy, 99. Millie said, careful not to mention the Crown Prince who got first place. Serena nodded happily. Leonard did work hard, but she bets that he was not happy with this result at all. She can already imagine his furrowed brow as he looked at the bulletin board, seeing Charlton's name on top of his. He was a bit competitive that way, well, at least that was how he was portrayed. This got me thinking, well, Serena, I guess since you got the highest score from all the ladies in our batch, then that means that you get to be the female student representative. Right. Giselle casually mentioned. The cogs in Serena's mind started moving. In the novel, that position went to Emily. But based on the examination results, that role would fall on her. Does she want to be a member? Well, a part of her doesn't want the responsibility. Plus, that only means seeing more of her soon-to-be ex-fiancé. However, there was also a part of her that wants to be. It was something she has never tried before in her previous life. She was curious. Anyway, it's better to wait and see. She hasn't been offered the position yet. I don't know, it's not too good to presume. Anyways, we should go for lunch. Serena replied. Wow, Charlie. I didn't know you had it in you. You beat Leonard here for the first time ever. Kylo, who thought that his friend looked better than he did the previous days, remarked. Leonard, who was still a little upset, can only grumble. He can't believe that Charlton got a higher score than him. It's not that he thought himself better than his friend. It's just that, he haven't seen Charlton put as much effort as he does. Charlton, on the other hand, was not as satisfied with his score like what his friends thought. In truth, who he wanted to surpass was Jeffrey. Jeffrey, who has always been perfect in everything. If he can't surpass him, then he should at least be on equal footing. But no, he still fell short. How can he tell his girlfriend that he just got second place? Worse, second place to her fiancé. He can only sigh. After looking at his result on the bulletin board, he looked at the first years. And boy, was he in for a surprise. It wouldn't be surprising if Serena had some formal schooling before, but she hasn't. She's a girl, for heaven's sake. But she single-handedly surpassed almost all the boys in their batch and landed herself on third place. In fact, if she did better in biology, she would have surpassed all of them. He felt so proud of her. But that should not be a surprise. He always knew that she had it in her. Kylo whistled. Whoa, Leonard, your sister is not bad at all. You didn't tell us how capable she was. Leonard was also surprised himself. He didn't know his sister was this smart. Last he remembered, she can't even do single-digit multiplication. But maybe his knowledge of her has been outdated. He never did join her in her tutorials. But anyway, he was proud and happy for her. Hey, doesn't that mean that she gets to join the student council? Kylo said offhandedly. I guess so. Leonard replied as he and Kylo looked at Charlton. Well, it's not like they can't read what's going on in his mind. TBC. Chapter 50. 50, Freshman's Female Representative. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After lunch, time moved a little more quickly for Serena. And soon, it was homeroom. Teacher Grace dismissed everyone in class early so that she can talk to her alone. The girls of their class all left, but not before cheering for her, calling her Miss Representative as they said their goodbyes, as if knowing that the talk between her and their teacher will be about that. Of course, everyone, save for Emily, loved that idea. They would pick Serena any day over Emily. I see that everyone already expects you to take on the mantle. Grace began. Serena chuckled. I'm not sure, teacher, I don't think I'm up for the responsibility, she honestly replied. That does sound a bit troubling. It has always been our tradition to give the position to the top scorer. However, it would still depend on you. I understand that the position does entail a certain responsibility, but I do believe that you can do it. Well, I'm a little afraid that it would affect my performance. Grace raised her left brow. Are you being serious? Honestly speaking, your result in the exams, at least for my subject, was beyond expectations. I don't even think that I can teach you anything new. Before reading your essay, I personally thought that Adam Smith's invisible hand was the best theory in any case, as it will always lead to market equilibrium. However, when you discussed the loopholes and market failures that may still occur, well, it made me think otherwise. If I could give you a higher score than 100, I would have. Serena blushed. It's not really her idea. It was John Maynard Keynes who talked about regulated capitalism. She just expounded on his idea, as she haven't seen his name in the archives here. Then she combined her knowledge in economics of the public sector. Because inevitably, Pareto efficiency cannot be reached without the help of the government. I believe that the student council will be a good training ground for you. I don't want to include politics in this, but I believe that if a woman can be part of the House of the Lord someday, you will be a great addition. Even in this one paper, I can already see that the range of your views and beliefs are far and wide. If it were any other female student, I would not be as persistent. But you will be a queen someday. So even if you can't be part of the House of the Lords, you have a say. You will be the voice of all the women of this empire. Serena can only gape at Grace. What was this talk all about? Was she trying to brainwash a student for her cause of women empowerment? Was she seeing firsthand the birth of feminism as a political ideology? Well, truthfully speaking, she was kind of convinced. Initially, she already thought of the possibility of her getting the top score and being offered said position. However, she always thought of declining it, not only because of the responsibility, but largely because of her consideration for Charlton's feelings. She also didn't want to have too much encounter with Jeffrey. Not that she thinks that he will fall in love with her, but just because. Now, when her musings became a reality, there was some part of her that wanted to accept the challenge. All her life, she never has been part of a student council, and she was a little curious as to what was there to it. Then there was also a little part of her that wants to join as revenge for what Charlton did. As petty as it sounds, she did have the sadistic impulse to make her boyfriend jealous. Or at least make him see that what he does, she can return to him tenfold. Anyway, thinking it through, why should she place Charlton's feelings first over herself? It was not like she's going to join the council to dally with another man. She's joining because she wanted to experience being in a position she never got to be in before. Besides, some part of her was proud of this achievement. She wanted to boast amongst her friends, to her brother, and to her parents. What? Even with her cheats and her age, she is still a normal human being. And regarding the responsibility it entails. That was just an excuse because, how tough can a student council member's responsibility be? Serena, I really think that you should consider this. Don't think too much and just join for the experience at the very least. Besides, I see that all the students here look up to you. Even I, myself, can't help but admit that you, more than anyone else, deserve it. Grace tried to convince her further. What else can Serena say? Of course, she agreed. Then Teacher Grace, I hope not to disappoint. She said with a smile. That's good to hear. Please, sign this form here. The student council have meetings on Saturdays at 9 a.m. at the annex building. I would have wanted to guide you there and tell you what is expected of you, but I guess it would just be redundant. You and the male representative Mr. Douglas Sheeran, I believe, will be oriented by the council members themselves on your first meeting. Serena took a pen and signed the form. Already a little excited. This was something new to her, an experience she wanted to have in her previous life if she were to be more honest. It's all right, Miss Grace. Thank you for the opportunity. Serena said as she handed her signed form back. Grace smiled at her, liking her attitude very much. You're welcome. And if you were to find any problem, please feel free to inform me. Serena nodded as she smiled. Yes, ma'am. Come on, you can call me Sis Grace, I'm not that much older than you. You know, I honestly want to talk to you about how we can address the issues you talked about in your exam. Like the problem of externalities. I don't get to discuss a lot of these things with anyone. The boys are just so full of themselves and the girls, well, I tried, but I don't really think that we have the same interests. Serena laughed. She is really starting to like this Grace. Okay, Sister Grace. Actually, the simplest answer to that which I can think of is taxation. For example, cigarette smoking is a negative externality. If we were to impose a certain tax on cigarettes, then the smokers get to pay for some of the damage that they cause, then we can use that money for, let's say, building a lung center or something. Well, that is not a foolproof plan, but I get what you mean. Wow, you're really good at this. Now I feel embarrassed teaching you in class. Don't be, I think that you're doing great. Serena said honestly. Grace was good at teaching and she was very passionate about the subject. It's just that Serena was also a professor of economics with a postgraduate degree. Grace laughed. She honestly felt like Serena is better than her. It does make her a little insecure, but to be honest, she was just glad that she now has someone to talk to about her passion. Books doesn't really make for a good conversation. Serena and Grace talked some more about economic-related theories and did not notice the passing of the time. Soon, it was already 5:15. Well, I hope we can discuss about these nerdy economic theories more in the future. Grace ended as she stood ready to leave. Sure. I would love that. Serena said as she smiled and stood up too. Then, please don't stand on ceremony. I need to go to the office now and submit this. Grace said as she directed her eyes at the form. Serena nodded and thanked her again one more time. TBC.